Greetings and welcome back to 50 Shades of Beige, and welcome to our video about the best worst / upside down PC. I actually lost a little bit of footage, actually a lot of footage of me actually building the thing. So we're gonna hop right into a sort of montage of the build, and I'll talk about the parts selection and that sort of thing in just a second. This is a different machine that I'm working on, as you can see here. We're testing out Tiny Cooler. If you want to check that out, be sure to check my Shorts tab because I've got some videos up in there. But don't fret, we've got plenty of footage of the finished PC after the montage. We can talk about the parts selection and the theme and also show some benchmarks and things like that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right into it. All right, this is the part where I'd normally show you the build process, but I forgot to film it. So instead, here's a beautiful still image of the chaos already in progress. Starting off at the top, you're looking at a Seasonic Synchro Q7 case with a 650 watt PSU combo there. It's an aggressively premium setup for a build that absolutely does not deserve it. The key part here is that it's a reverse ATX design that's supposed to optimize the intake for the GPU and enhance the cooling effect around it. Now, the reason that this build looks like a flippin' crime scene is because my chief jankery advisor, King Zalant, insisted that I use as many adapters as I had on hand, and I went ahead and did that.
Dylan, you son of a bitch.
We got DIMM to SODIMM adapters for the RAM, because why not make memory training a complete disaster? And Oculink for the GPU, which I'm pretty sure voided a warranty just by looking at it.
Would you say we'd be venturing into a zone of danger?
And for storage, we went with a PCIe to NVMe adapter. So yeah, I missed the build footage, but trust me, it was just as cursed as the result. And our next big challenge was just figuring out how we were going to route all these cables. I wanted to make sure to do a really clean looking build, so I was really mindful about where all the cables were going to go. Unfortunately, because we're mounting an entire power supply for an ATX machine, there's just a lot of extra cables. And you can see here, I'm trying to figure out, okay, where's the IEC cable going to go and that sort of thing. I ended up actually routing it out the bottom along the side of the case, and it worked out pretty well. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to close the back panel. And here's the fateful moment where I realized that I had mounted the Oculink adapter in the wrong spot. When I had originally sized it up, I actually had the GPU backwards. I actually had the adapter zip tied in. So I then had to cut all the zip ties off, move everything over, and try again, which was not fun, I gotta say. It was not a blast. Routing zip ties through small spaces like that where you have just a tiny bit of clearance is not the best, especially when you're not using the right size zip tie for the job. But we got it done either way. Alrighty, so here's our system up close and personal. We'll start off at the top here. Of course, the star of the show is the 9060 XT, which you can see, if you look real close, is actually mounted to an Oculink adapter. And we've got that running down here to our first M.2 slot, our top slot, so we can get maximum PCIe 4.0 bandwidth on our B550 Aorus Master motherboard. And this is mounted up with thoughts and prayers, mostly. And also I got a couple of zip ties and stuff up there as well. It actually does a pretty good job of holding everything up, but you never know. Don't ask questions, just embrace the jankery and keep it moving. As you see back here, you see this little red thing. That's actually a PCIe adapter card for our M.2. And of course, like true champions, we went ahead and ran that through the chipset instead of off of the free PCIe slot up top there. Two reasons. Once again, we're kind of going with the best worst motif, so that's definitely the worst way to install your M.2. And also because the BIOS gets a little confused when there's something plugged in here and it's not a graphics card, especially when your GPU is running off of the M.2 right next to it. Next, if you look down in here, you'll see those are two SODIMMs on DDR4 DIMM adapters. running at a smoke and fast DDR4 2133. And you'll also see, obviously, these are on opposite channels. That is because these DIMM adapters are super finicky. The BIOS in here just does not like them. The only speed I could get them to run at is 2133, and they have to be on separate channels, but we've got 24 gigs of RAM to work with, so that's definitely fine for 2025. Next, you're probably wondering where all these wires are coming from. Obviously, we have a power supply right here. That's going to our Oculink adapter. You just have to have all those voltages going to that adapter in order for it to work right. It looks for a full 20-pin connector, so you kind of don't have much of a choice. And I've got that running out the bottom here. Now, one cool thing about this Seasonic case is the power supply is back here, but the actual breakout for the cables and such are actually up here behind the power supply. So we were able to save some cables there. If you get up close and personal with the AIO here, you'll see that we have push-pull configuration. Once again, going with that stupidly overbuilt kind of motif here. Obviously, this AIO is upside down. You can run this way, and it cools just fine, but it is definitely not ideal. The fans can overcome any heating inefficiencies that are around here. And I went ahead and put an extra fan up top here, mostly just for looks, but also so that we can make sure that our GPU stays straight. And then I left just enough room in the back here so that we can run a HDMI adapter out. Unfortunately, it's not DisplayPort. I made it a point to do as good of a job as I could with cable management. There is some stuff laying around.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
And we'll have a look at the backside here. You'll see we have even more nonsense going on with adapters, because why not? So I went ahead and ran all of the fans off of this SATA adapter. And then here's the back side of the power supply. I also have a couple of fans hooked in here, also on an adapter, just because we're also running two different types of RGB. So I've got a 5-volt RGB splitter right here, and then the rest are running on 4-volt RGB, which is hooked up on the back side of the motherboard. And I was going to do a good job of cable managing this, which actually it's not terrible. It just needs to be sort of grouped up and put underneath there. Then I realized that I have this IEC cable coming off of our secondary power supply, so there's no good way for us to close the back panel right now, but I'm hoping to fix that in the future. Final specs include a Ryzen 5 5600 with 24 gigs of RAM. That's alongside a 1 terabyte Silicon Power UD90 SSD on a Gigabyte B550 Aorus Master motherboard. Working with two PSUs, including the 300-watt ITX job you see here and the 650-watt Seasonic Synchro. The cooler of choice today is the ID Cooling FrostFlow 360X, and the star of the show is the Gigabyte Gaming RX 9060 XT 16GB. Let's see how it plays. Doom Dark Ages ran surprisingly well at 1080p on Ultra Nightmare. The 9060 XT didn't catch fire, and the CPU managed to keep its dignity, so I've got no complaints there. Unfortunately, we didn't make out so well when we enabled path tracing, but such is the life of a budget gamer. Next, I gave Oblivion Remastered a shot. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it to run for more than a minute or two at a time. What a mess.
All of this just works. It's not, I'm not kidding. The generators will power things through switches that require power, lights and other items, and then you run wires that connect them all, and again, it just works.
And last but not least, I gave Clair Obscur Expedition 33 a shot, and it ran and actually looked good doing it. I netted around 60 FPS at 1080p on the high preset, and I'm overall pretty happy with the performance here. Well, that's going to do it for now. Be sure to tune in live Saturday night. We'll be featuring this PC along with other tech shenanigans at 10 p.m. Eastern. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the best worst upside down PC. I want to continue featuring it on the channel, so be sure to let me know down in the comments what we should try next. And in the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.